Can anybody say impossible? Coming up, we tackle the challenge of ranking the top 10 songs from yet another legendary year in music. And this list is jam-packed with unforgettable songs from the rock era, including one that was inspired by the road noise of tires on a bridge that unlocked a legendary falsetto 10 years into a legendary career. Another was born from a band's chaotic escape from a bottle-throwing crowd, and another came from the drummer screwing up the beat, but this mistake made it a smash, and yet another where the singer ripped the guitarist's wife apart. And also, my number one pick is, in my opinion, the greatest song in rock history. It's a countdown of the top 10 songs of 1975. Find out what hits number one coming up next. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time, especially today. You know, if you remember the church lady scolding Sean Penn about Madonna on Saturday Night Live back in the day, you're going to dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. Make sure to subscribe below right now. Click the white button and click the notification bell so you always know when our stuff comes out. Also, make sure to sign up at professorofrock.com. We have special guests, live streams, just stuff you won't find anywhere else. Check it out today. So I opened up my trusty Joel Whitburn Poppy Annual, 1950-2023. I have all of his books. He's incredible. Go to recordresearch.com to get yours. 75 is a tough year. There was a wide variety of seminal recordings that came out in that year, a year that represented an incredible array of artistry. 20 different albums by 17 different artists reached the top of the Billboard album chart in 1975. That's how diverse it was. And remember, to be considered for this top 10, song had to peak in the top 40 of that year. Otherwise, it's just too hard. There's so many different songs, B-sides, album tracks, and everything like that. Maybe we'll have to do that later on. Let me know if you'd like to see that. But let's get started on the countdown of the top 10 songs from the year 1975. We started number 10 with one of the most misconstrued tunes of the rock era. Number 10, I got the band Ace with How Long. The real-life drama behind How Long by Ace is not what everybody thinks it is. When Paul Carrick sang the chorus, How Long Has This Been Going On? I mean, it sounds like a guy who's confronting a cheating lover, but the real story, it's something else entirely. Ace bass player Terry Comer had been moonlighting with other bands, including a short stint with the Sutherland Brothers and Quiver. This was without telling his bandmates that he was doing this. And when they found out, they felt like they were the ones that were being cheated on. So here's what Paul Carrick told me about it in an interview.
To be honest, they were trying to sort of coax him into leaving us and joining them. So we were a little bit deflated about that concept. In fact, we weren't deflated. We were pissed off, because anyway, long and short of it is Tex stayed with us, but and we got a song out of it that's still around today. That's How Long.
How Long was the only hit for Ace. It peaked at number 20 in the UK, but it went all the way to number 3 in Canada and here on the Billboard Hot 100. It became the first hit for Paul Carrick, one of the greatest voices ever, one of my favorites. He'd have 4 big hits with 4 different iterations, including Ace, Squeeze, Mike and the Mechanics, and solo. One of the only ones to do that besides Paul Rodgers. Coming in at the number 9 spot on the countdown, it's one of the most unique and challenging recordings ever. Love this song. I'm Not in Love by 10cc. Now, 10cc's lead singer Eric Stewart never set out to spark a debate about love, at least not beyond his own home. It all started with a simple conversation with his wife, Gloria. Now, one day she pointed out, "You just don't say I love you that much anymore." Eric's response was pretty practical, maybe a little bit sassy. Of course, Eric loved his wife, but did he really have to say this all the time? Wouldn't that make it lose its meaning, in his opinion? That doesn't mean you mean that much to me. To Eric, love was something that you proved, not something you just kept saying over and over again. But the thought has stuck with him. What if there was another way for him to express those 3 words? One that carried even more weight. That question lingered, eventually finding its way into his music. That's how I'm Not in Love became more than just a phrase. It became an atmospheric masterpiece wrapped in a haunting arrangement that captured the complexities of love so well without ever really saying the words, right? Eric Stewart had most of I'm Not in Love mapped out. He had the melody, he had the lyrics, strumming away on his guitar. He had it all before he brought it into the studio. But he felt something was missing. That's when Graham Gouldman stepped in. Graham, of course, great songwriter. He tweaked the melody, he suggested some new chords, and he even crafted the intro and bridge section. For 2 to 3 days, Eric and Graham, they shaped the song into what they thought was pretty solid. The music originally had a bossa nova rhythm and a guitar-driven arrangement. Now, when Eric and Graham brought their song to their bandmates, Kevin Godley and Lil Cream, Godley and Cream, their reaction was brutal. The moment Kevin heard it, he called it a piece of crap. So don't you ask me. And I'm Not in Love was shut down. They thought it was crap. Even though the track was temporarily abandoned, though, the melody prevailed. Members of the studio staff kept humming the tune, whispering it and passing to one another. Eventually, Eric convinced the band to give it another shot with a completely new approach, though, one that would turn I'm Not in Love into a groundbreaking recording. I'm Not in Love's ethereal choral backdrop wasn't created by a traditional choir, though. It was entirely crafted from the voices of the band members themselves. Layer by painstaking layer, they built a rich wordless harmony using an intricate process of chord loops and multi-tracking. Unbelievable they did this in the time where they really had no technology. In total, they recorded a staggering 256 vocal overdubs to create the lush soundscape behind Eric Stewart's lead vocal. Just incredible. Eric spent 3 weeks meticulously recording Gouldman, Godley, and Cream singing a simple ah, 16 times for every note in the chromatic scale. The result was a massive choir effect of 48 voices for each note, forming an otherworldly cushion of sound that likely impressed wall of sound inventor Phil Spector. That's kind of what they were inspired by, and they kind of leapfrogged over him with this song. While the song's haunting harmonies were painstakingly crafted from the band's own voices, one uncredited contribution added an extra touch of mystery. Karen Redfern, the studio's receptionist, she lent her breathy whisper to the now iconic Big Boys Don't Cry line. A subtle yet unforgettable moment that gave the song its eerie, dreamlike quality.
Don't cry. Big boys don't cry. Big boys don't cry.
I'm Not in Love by 10cc was an international smashola. It was number 1 in Canada, Ireland, and the UK. Nearly hit number 1 here. It went to number 2, one of the greatest number 2 hits ever. Onward with our countdown. It's the comeback of the Bee Gees with their mega smash Jive Talkin' at number 8 on the top 10 songs of 1975. Now, in the early draft stages, Jive Talkin' was actually called Drive Talking. The song's distinctive rhythm was inspired by the sound of their car, the sound that it made as it rumbled across the Julia Tuttle Causeway each day on the drive from Biscayne Bay to Criteria Studios in Miami. Robin Gibb, he once explained that he and his brothers had already come up with a title for the song, but the melody was still taking shape. It wasn't until a drive from Biscayne Bay to Miami that the inspiration really struck. As they crossed that bridge, the rhythmic thumping of the car's wheels over the tar seams created the perfect groove. That sound sparked the feel of the song that they wanted to write. By the time they arrived at Criteria Studios, they had the idea locked in and they finished Jive Talkin' that very same day. I love that. They hear, only the Bee Gees. Actually, something I forgot to mention, when they were driving across the bridge, Barry absentmindedly started singing along with the rhythm of the car, Jive Talkin'. At that time, he thought it was just about dancing, something along the lines of "you dance with your eyes." That's all he had, just that phrase, that groove that was created by the vehicle traveling about 35 miles per hour. When the brothers Gibb brought the song to Arif Mardin, he listened to them and then asked the guys, "Do you know what Jive Talkin' means?" The brothers answered with confidence, "Yeah, it's about dancing." Harvey shook his head and chuckled, no, it's a street expression for BSing, bullshitting. So with that revelation, the lyrics were altered to jive talking, you're telling me lies. It's also the song where Barry stumbled upon his iconic falsetto. It first came when he executed a scream in the coda to fatten his vocal up on Nights on Broadway from the same album. This stunned everyone. No one had any idea that he could command his voice to do that. On the Nights on Broadway. It may change everything for this group. Barry soon realized that he had the ability to sustain his falsetto throughout an entire song, galvanizing the vitality of the new Bee Gees and bringing them numerous #1 hits. Man, so cool how that came about. When the final mixing and mastering of Jive Talkin' was finished, the Bee Gees team knew they had made an extraordinary record. You know, the Bee Gees had had 2 consecutive album flops at this time. And Jive Talkin' with its irresistible groove and a little cowbell to boot was a runaway comeback hit that revived the Bee Gees, sibling trio that most people thought could only do sappy ballads. Knowing that a new Bee Gees single would be met with heavy skepticism by radio programmers, their label RSO actually sent promotional singles to stations with plain white labels, giving no indication as to what the name of the song was or even who performed it. And the plan, it worked like a charm. They listened to it and they loved it. Got great reaction from listeners and was added to playlists all over, reviving the fortunes of the Bee Gees. Jive Talkin' went to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, and it went to #5 in Canada. I tell you what, there was one great song after another that came out in 1975. It was really tough to pick just 10. But at #7, I gotta go with a song that everybody knows from the very first second they hear it, Lowrider by War. All my friends know the Lowrider. That's what Charles Miller of War narrated in the song that he wrote about taking a little trip in a kitted out car with a lowered suspension system. All my friends know the Lowrider. Now, Charles' bandmate, Harold Brown, the drummer of War and the co-writer of the song, gave us the lowdown on Lowrider. Here's what he said.
One day we were in the studio, and this is where I learned a valuable lesson recording. It was a mistake that I was playing on the drums. I was on the upbeat. I'm going. I wanted, because most people want, even now, they go on time. It was like a ska. And I was in the studio. I was going, oh no. Oh, I'm on the upbeat. Well, don't panic. Just leave it there. It stopped being an accident. It became intentional. And the next thing I know with BB, Morris Dickinson, he started on his bass. Boom, 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 boom. Huh. And then Lonnie Jordan with this, and then Howard on the up. And then all
the cowbell.
Yeah, well, but see, we did that.
That's insane. Lowrider came from Harold screwing up the beat and then Charles Miller just singing a random word as a joke. In the end, it was no joke. It became a #1 single on the U.S. Hot Soul Singles Chart. It also cruised to #6 in Canada and #7 on the Billboard Hot 100. We're going to keep on rolling with our top 10 countdown here with a major hit that wasn't even supposed to be a single. At #6, I've got those Doobies. Doobie Brothers with Black Water. Oh, Black Water. It's a great privilege to get to interview rock legends, I tell you. To get the story of Black Water, it was doubly exciting because I got the details from the co-founders, Patrick Simmons and the great Tom Johnston.
I had the concept of wanting to do a cool vocal arrangement, and I had a lot of it started. And then we just kind of went out in the studio and started playing around with it, and Ted said, hey, how about doing this? And I think Keith Knutson came up with I want a honky tonk. Come and take me by the hand. I want a honky tonk, take me by the hand, pretty mama. Honky tonk, and he's singing that. Keith's singing that. And then Tyron said, I'm going to do it an octave lower. And So he's, I'm on a honky tonk. And he's singing. And really, a lot of the guys came up with some of their own parts.
The auto harp and the wind chimes you hear on the recording of Blackwater were played by folk hero Arlo Guthrie. Blackwater cracked the top 10 at number 9 in Canada, went all the way to number 1 on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 here, and probably the greatest sing-along song of the 70s, right? Take me by the hand, pretty mama, come and dance with your daddy all night long. Halfway through the countdown at number 5, we're going to get out the lead with Led Zeppelin, Trampled Underfoot. Robert Plant drew inspiration from blues legend Robert Johnson's 1936 song Terraplane Blues when writing the lyrics for Trampled Underfoot. Not the first time Robert Johnson would inspire Robert Plant. Johnson's song, named after the classic Terraplane car, used automotive terms as metaphors for love and betrayal. Pump your gas, rev all night, so on. But while Terraplane Blues tells a story of infidelity, Trampled Underfoot takes a different turn, driving headfirst into the raw, unstoppable pull of desire.
They've been driving my terraplane for years since I've been gone.
Something that both AC/DC and Led Zeppelin would go back and forth against each other trying to come up with the greatest car sex song. At Earl's Court in 1975, Robert set the stage with a brazen introduction. At center stage, Robert addressed the crowd. If you're into fast cars and certain parts of the human body, well, sometimes you just might get trampled underfoot.
If you liken a motor car to the parts of a human body, then sometimes you can get trampled underfoot.
Trampled Underfoot was born out of a jam session from 1972, with writing credits going to Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, and John Paul Jones. The band spent hours fine-tuning the relentless semi-funk riff that drives the song. John Paul Jones later revealed that the groove was inspired by Stevie Wonder's Superstition, particularly its clavinet-driven beat. Superstition was so influential during that part of the rock era, for sure. We've talked about it many times. Meanwhile, Jimmy Page added his own magic, running his guitar through a wah-wah pedal, and as producer, experimenting with reverse echo to give the track its unique swirling intensity. Released as a single from the double masterpiece Physical Graffiti, Trampled Underfoot only made it to number 38 on the Billboard Hot 100, but it's arguably one of rock's finest, most complete tracks. Coming in number 4 on our countdown at the top of 75, man, we got a true classic from a band, and the song's pretty brutal. We've talked about it before. I've got Aerosmith with Sweet Emotion. Sweet Emotion, of course, came from Aerosmith's iconic Toys in the Attic album. Steven Tyler, of course, wrote this track as a way to vent his frustration with Joe Perry's lover, his wife, then wife, while also easing the tension between him and Joe. Steven credits the first lines, "Talk about things that nobody cares, wearing out things that nobody wears." That's to Joe Perry's first wife, Alyssa, due to the intense tension between them at this time.
Here's what I'm wearing, darling.
Wearing out the things that nobody wears.
Much of this tension stemmed from their drug use, especially after one night when Tyler showed up at Perry's hotel room looking for heroin. We covered this a couple times with this really a great story. Alyssa and Joe turned Steven Tyler away, refusing to share their drugs. It pissed him off. Actually, in the Aerosmith autobiography, Walk This Way, Steven describes the scathing lines in Sweet Emotion as his angry side talking. He adds that when he wrote the lyrics, "Can't say baby where I'll be in a year," he was thinking, but it'll be at least 1,000 miles away from you, talking about Alyssa. He also called her a sweat hog mama with a face like a gent.
Some sweat hog mama with a face like a gent.
The killer music for Sweet Emotion was built around the bass line that Tom Hamilton came up with. While Steven wrote the lyrics, Hamilton was known as Mr. Sweet Emotion, and the song came together during an Aerosmith jam session, and it became a massive song. Yet it's another classic rocker on our countdown that can't really be judged by its place in the charts. It actually stalled at number 38, barely making the top 40. But since dropping in 75, the track has sold more than 3 million units in America alone. We're up to number 3 on our countdown with a rousing full frontal attack by Steve, Andy, Mick, and Brian. Talking about Sweet, unleashing the ballroom blitz, baby. Ballroom Blitz spins a wild, chaotic tale of a band performing when all hell breaks loose in the audience, leading to what can only be described as a full-blown ballroom blitz. Now, the inspiration for Sweet's Super Jam likely came from an incident in 1973 when Sweet played at the Grand Hall in Scotland, and they were forced off stage by a barrage of bottles thrown by the crowd. It's easy to connect the dots between that real-life mayhem and the song's story.
And the music was soothing, and they all started grooving.
But when songwriters Nicky Chin and Mike Chapman were asked about this, Chapman tossed a cold splash of water on the backstory. He actually told Goldmine, and I quote, "We were trying to write songs that had no meaning, and Ballroom Blitz was one of them. I suggested the title, and we sat down and wrote a song about a guy having a nightmarish, drug-fueled vision where his latest record flops. He's in this ballroom in a discotheque, and everything starts to fall apart around him." It was a pretty funny song, though I've forgotten the original version because I ended up writing a really dirty one. That was his take. Of course, members of the Sweet have said it really was based on the incident. But whatever the story, Ballroom Blitz rocketed to the top 5 around the world. It hit number 1 in Canada, West Germany, Iceland, Ireland, Australia. Single reached number 2 in the UK, and it went to number 5 in the Billboard Hot 100 from a band that's one of the most underrated bands of all time. They had so many huge songs. They should definitely be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Coming in our bridesmaid position, it's one of the most emotional and personal tracks of not only 1975, but in the entire rock era. From a legend that was dealing with some real demons at the time. At number 2, I've got Someone Saved My Life Tonight by Elton John.
Someone saved my life tonight.
Damn, there is so much going on in this dramatic track. One of my favorites of all time. Clocking in at just under 7 minutes. There was no radio edit for AM radio, for Someone Saved My Life Tonight. It was just too powerful and poignant to truncate any part of this brilliant composition. Man, Someone Saved My Life Tonight reflects a pivotal moment in Elton John's life when he was on the verge of marrying a woman named Linda Woodrow. A decision he later realized would have been a huge mistake, one of the biggest mistakes of his life.
Hypnotized, sweet freedom whispered in my ear.
Actually, in the 1991 Two Rooms tribute project, Elton shared the story, and I quote, "I was once about to get married when I was younger. I went out and got drunk with Long John Baldry and Bernie Taupin, and was told by his friends that he shouldn't go through with it." Now, Long John told him this. Elton knew he was right, but he didn't know how to back out. So he just got drunk, went home, and simply said, "I'm not getting married." This song captures that moment of clarity when a well-meaning intervention saved him from a life-altering mistake.
Butterflies are free to fly away.
Someone Saved My Life Tonight might be my favorite song that Bernie Taupin ever wrote the lyrics for. And it may be the finest hour for Elton as a composer and as a singer. There are a number of memorable lyrical moments in the track, with Sugar Bear perhaps the most memorable, and not just because of the playful image it conjures up.
Sugar bear.
Sugar Bear actually refers to Elton's friend Long John Baldry, who I was just talking about. He's the John that inspired Elton's last name, actually. Long John recalled that Elton thanked him for that invaluable advice that he gave him, and the nickname Sugar Bear was written by Bernie to pay tribute to his counsel, for a dear friend in a very critical time of need.
Someone saved my life tonight. So save your strength.
Actually, this song stretches all the way back to 1970 when Elton broke it off with Linda, like I said, but not before breaking her heart when she heard the lyric, "You nearly had me roped and tied, altar-bound, hypnotized." Linda eventually moved to America and she had 3 children. And while she holds no grudges against Elton John, she hated that lyric. It was really, really painful for her. Man, my favorite lyric of the song, though, is when Elton sings, "It's 4 o'clock in the morning, damn it, Listen to Me Good. I'm sleeping with myself tonight. Saved in time. Thank God my music is still alive. I can't tell you how many times that line has literally saved my life. Man, listening to it in headphones and going right to that song and that part. What about you? Let me know. Coming in at number 1 on this 1975 countdown is the song that changed my life as a young boy. It's had a profound impact on me ever since the first time I heard it. This one was easy. At number 1, I got Bruce Springsteen with Born to Run. Born to Run embodies the restless spirit of youth, eager to hit the road and live life to the absolute fullest. In early 74, Springsteen was sitting in his home in Long Branch, New Jersey, just strumming his guitar at the edge of his bed, trying to work out some song ideas. And as he played, the words "Born to Run" suddenly came to him like a flash. Now, he would say, and I quote, "At first I thought it was the title of a movie or something I'd seen on a car racing around a track. But the phrase, it stuck with him. He was drawn to it, captivated by how it hinted at a cinematic drama, something that seemed to perfectly align with the music he had been hearing in his head. It was a moment of pure inspiration, the spark that would ignite one of the most iconic tracks of the rock era. I think the most perfect song of the rock era." Born to Run was the first song Springsteen wrote specifically for a studio production rather than for a live performance. After recording 4 different versions, including one with a female chorus, this at the low-budget studio where he recorded his first 2 albums, he decided to move to a more high-end studio to finish the track. It was worthy of it for sure. He had this like Brian Wilson Pet Sounds vision, determined to get this song perfect. He refused to release the song unless it was exactly as he imagined it. Since its release in 75, Born to Run has evolved in meaning and perspective for the boss. I love how he articulated how the song has traveled along with him on his journey. I gotta tell you, one of my favorite references to this song is from the liner notes to Bruce's Greatest Hits album, where the boss wrote out, "Born to Run, my shot at the title. A 24-year-old kid aiming at the greatest rock and roll record ever." I gotta tell you, in my opinion, he pulled it off in spades. Like I said, when it comes to music, I have 2 greatest songs ever lists. The fun list, which covers songs that are so catchy I never tire of them, in which my favorite song ever is Something About You by Level 42. We just covered that. And then there's the second list, which is probably the most important, my life songs list. And this one tops that one. I mean, this song made me who I am. It's the song that's motivated me more than any song ever. First time I heard it, I felt like I was busting out of prison. Oh man, it's just pushed me to be my best self. Better than any song I can think of. It's freedom defined. It is magic. I sang an acoustic version of this song to my wife at our wedding because it was a song that asked the question, I want to know if love is real.
I want to know if love is real.
Well, my wife answered that question for me. But also I wanted to make her the promise that Springsteen makes at the end of the song when he says, someday, girl, I don't know when, we're going to get to that place we really want to go. We'll walk in the sun. But till then, tramps like us, baby, we were born to run.
Really wanna go and we'll walk in the sun.
And you know, every day I get a little closer to that promise for my wife. And for now, just keep on running. One of my favorite quotes about the song comes from the boss. He said, I was 24 when I wrote it. The questions I asked myself in that song, it feels like I've been trying to find the answers ever since. When I wrote it, I was telling the story of a guy and a girl who wanted to run away, to keep running and never look back. It was this romantic idea, but then I realized that once I put all those people in those cars, I had to figure out where they were going. And I came to understand that individual freedom, when it's not connected to something bigger, can feel pretty empty. So I guess the guy and the girl in the song were really searching for a connection. And I guess that's what I've been doing as well. In the end, the song is about two people trying to find their way home. It's been a good companion on my journey, and I hope it can be one on yours. I love that. Born to Run, it came at the crossroads of Springsteen's career. I mean, his first two albums, they were commercial stiffs. Columbia Records were close to dropping the boss if he didn't produce a hit. I mean, I can't even imagine. Same thing happened to Billy Joel around the same time. Born to Run, thankfully, was a hit. As Bruce's fourth single of his career, Born to Run climbed to number 23 on the Billboard Hot 100. It went to number 38 in Australia, and it went to number 17 in Sweden. And its legacy is eternal. It's where he was on the cover of Time magazine and Newsweek on the same week. And actually, my favorite version is his live 1975 to 1985 version. That one is so powerful, seriously. So there you have it, my top 10 songs on 1975. Now for my other picks in the album category, Born to Run is the album of the year, one of my favorite album of all time. Fittingly, Artist of the Year is Bruce Springsteen, and the Band of the Year is Led Zeppelin. And here are my honorable mentions. So leave us a comment about 1975. Am I crazy? I know there's a lot of haters out there that don't like the boss. The music, it means everything though. One of the greatest songwriters ever. And it was tough because Elton John, there's so many great songs that came out in 1975. What are your memories? What's your top 10 of 75? Let's have a great discussion below. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.